Good afternoon. Getting right down to business here. We're doing it live, doing more at 4 weekday afternoons, right after Guy Benson and just before the 790 KBC News Blitz with Randy Wang at 5. And stay with us at 6 o'clock this evening for the Just Help One radio show and podcast presented by the Union Rescue Mission. I'll be back on the air at 6 this evening, every Thursday evening at 6 with Mark Hood, the CEO of the Union Rescue Mission. Richard Newcomb, Vice President of Philanthropy, will be with us, too. And special guest Jim Cascone, the owner of Huntington Meats and a big URM supporter who encourages others to do the same. Right now, it's Mottek On Money, live on the air, 790 KBC, streaming live online worldwide at KBC.com. And you're on demand, Mottek On Money podcast, KBC.com, Apple iTunes, YouTube, all of your favorite podcast platforms. Another record-shattering day for stocks, both the Dow and S&P 500 ticking up to close at all-time highs. The Nasdaq also advanced but missed its all-time high, standing just below its record high. The Dow coming in for a closing gain of 72 points to settle at 45,637. The S&P 500 ended up 20 points to 6,502, clearing 6,500 for the very first time. The Nasdaq gained 115 to 21,705. NVIDIA trimmed early losses in reaction to its latest earnings report and came in for a closing loss of $1.43 today to $180.17. On the economy, the government said the latest reading showed the economy grew at a rate of 3.3% in the second quarter. That was a surprise bump up from the initial estimate. Also, we saw a surge in a front run of tariffs. That's something that was picked up in the latest report, as well as a healthy pickup in consumer spending. Jobless claims, meanwhile, fell as layoffs remain low. Another economic test will be coming up on Friday, tomorrow morning, with the July reading on PCE. That's the consumer inflation reading that the Fed favors. Uncertainty over the impact of tariffs continue to hang over the businesses, especially retailers, heading into the holiday season. We'll get a ground-level update on that from Tara Riceberg, owner of the Tesoro Gift Shop in Beverly Hills. She'll be joining me live later this hour. The drama continues at the Federal Reserve. Fed Governor Christopher Waller today said he now supports a series of interest rate cuts starting in September next month, with the pace of subsequent moves driven by incoming reports. Fed Governor Waller had urged the Fed to cut rates at its last meeting in July. Meanwhile, a judge has set a hearing for tomorrow morning on Federal Reserve Board Governor Lisa Cook's request to block President Trump from firing her, hours after Cook filed a lawsuit against the president. President Trump said he was firing Cook because of allegations she committed mortgage fraud. NVIDIA in the spotlight today. Looks like the initial cloud over that stock lifted. Investors got into the earnings report, which was seen as a test of the AI trade driving stock gains this year. We'll talk more about that in just a moment. Also, Best Buy beat Wall Street analysts' expectations, but the stock moved lower after the consumer electronics retailer maintained its full-year outlook, which disappointed Wall Street. And Cracker Barrel still in the spotlight. The stock has seen a wild ride on drama over its logo change and then change reversal this week. I'll talk more about that later this hour with PR guru and author Michael Levine. On the crypto scene, we see Bitcoin hovering around 112,000, rebounding a bit today. It's been all over the place after hitting a record high above 124,000 over the past week. And Ethereum pulling back today a bit and moved below 4,500 for a while. Right now, it's just above 4,500. Joining us live now on this record-shattering day on Wall Street, Jonathan HOENIG, Fox News and Fox Business contributor, portfolio manager at Capitalist Pig Hedge Fund, and author of the book, Price is Primary, How to Profit with Any Asset in Any Market at Any Time. Good afternoon, Jonathan HOENIG.
Hey, Frank, I'm delighted to be with you, especially on a record-shattering day, and lots to celebrate. But I have to say, I think a lot to be concerned about as well. I'm just stunned by news this week that the administration is going to be taking a 10% stake in Intel. This is a great American company, and we talked a lot about the socialist threat in New York. Mondami wants, does he want a grocery store? I mean, that's child's play compared to huge stakes in major American companies that the Trump administration is not only taking, but also not proposing to take more of in the future.
On there live with Jonathan HOENIG, that is a big story for sure. An Intel stock moving up 8 cents today to $24.93, and there's buzz that other companies might be in for a deal like this, including some defense names. And right down the line here, and it's also been viewed as a tax on these companies when the government takes a portion of the profits. Specifically on the Intel story here, what do you make of it, and what do you see ahead for the stock given what's on the table?
Well, the GOP used to chastise Obama, for example, we used to say picking winners and losers. And companies, people might remember, Frank, like Solyndra, and what in effect Trump is doing now is privatizing the gains and socializing the losses. It is not government's role to take positions in equity positions in government. Do we not learn that lesson with GM? Government lost, I should say, taxpayers lost about $12 billion on their ownership in GM. And, Frank, I had ChatGPT total it out. We're talking about a $33 investment in Intel that every American has now made. It's not government's role to do that. So I'm very concerned moving forward. I think this could be a real pallor on stocks. And, keep in mind, in the first half, it was international names that really outperformed. That's only waned in the last couple of weeks. And my sense is if the U.S. government really starts taking an active role into buying U.S. companies, money is going to flow out of this great country.
NVIDIA, of course, in the spotlight in the last 24 hours on its earnings news, and then it also has some sort of a deal related to giving the U.S. government a percentage of its sales to China, right? So did you have a chance to listen to what Jensen, the king of AI there at NVIDIA, had to say on the earnings call and dig through their earnings report? The stock initially took about a 5% slide yesterday, 24 hours ago after the report came out, but came in for a closing loss of just $1 and change for 180.17 here. What are your thoughts on NVIDIA and the latest news there?
Many investors were surprised, Frank. I mean, the headline was that they beat on top line, they beat on the bottom line, something on the effect of a 50% gain expected, and the stock was down as a result. Not to simplify it or minimize, a great American company, but I do think this could be an example of one of those, as they say, buy the rumor, sell the fact news. Great earnings, but the stock traded down as a result. And I'm seeing the best opportunity, not necessarily in the big AI names which are well known, but for example in a lot of the small cap names, ETF AVSC I'd like a lot right here. These are not the big cap names; these are the small names. I think that's where the next big bull market is, despite the fact that AI is or I should say NVIDIA is a great company. It's been a great stock. I just don't think it's going to be the next big bull market.
All right. I know you follow the crypto action, too, and we've seen a wild ride there with Bitcoin hitting a record high recently in the last couple of weeks, and Ethereum also popping to just shy of 5K, back to around 4,500 here now. What are your thoughts on crypto here now?
Don't fight the tape. Frank, I can't say I'm a believer in that I own a lot of crypto, but I've been fascinated to see a lot of the crypto-related stocks, mining companies, for example, making new 20-day highs. That usually shows at least short-term momentum. So, I'm not a crypto owner. I don't own a lot of crypto, but I don't think you fight the tape. And I think it shows that money is looking for a home. Gold is starting to break out once again. I like GLD. Silver, same thing. SLV, platinum, PPLT. I think money is looking for a home, especially with now the uncertainty of U.S. government taking equity positions in these major U.S. companies. I think money is going to be looking for a home, and it certainly could be Ether or Bitcoin just as easily as gold or silver or platinum.
All right, what about these crypto-related equities that have made a splash on Wall Street recently? Bitmine, which has that Ethereum exposure, a strategy, and let's see, that bullish IPO recently, which made a splash, and Circle and so forth.
Well, Frank, me. I like things that haven't made their splash just yet. The popularity of those stocks, I think, reflects an interest in crypto as an industry writ large. So I'm not buying those individual stocks, but I am looking at areas of the market that I think have been overlooked, and one of them is emerging markets writ large. Emerging markets have been always beset by currency issues. It very well could be that Bitcoin and crypto have the biggest impact in some of the lesser, kind of lesser well-off parts of the world, the emerging markets. So I like EMB very much. And even China, Frank, CNYA, I think is a great Chinese ETF. These companies, many of them, are trading at a fraction of the valuation that the U.S. market is trading at. So I think they're strong, and they're also much cheaper when it comes to valuation.
All right. We've been talking a little bit about digital gold. What about good old analog gold and other precious metals? Do you still like gold, silver, platinum?
I do. In fact, they've shaped up after a couple weeks of kind of treading water. GLD, PPLT is platinum. I think you can buy that here. SLV also very strong, and not just the stocks, but or not just the prices of the metals themselves, but the stocks as well. GDX is the ETF that I follow that holds a lot of those gold stocks. It's breaking out now to new yearly highs. So, we always say, Frank, you got to follow the trend, don't fight the tape. And the trend, once again, is really favoring the precious metals. We're going to have to see if that means the dollar drops and international stocks outperform as well. But for now, I think gold is a real attractive asset, and I do own that one over at capitals.com.
All right, what about the rare earth names? Remember we were talking about those a few months ago when that Ukraine deal with the U.S. Came up. Haven't heard too much more lately, but what about any of the rare earth stocks?
Yeah, in fact, there's an ETF I like that's playing those stocks in particular, Frank. It's REMX. This is an ETF that holds a lot of those names that are involved, particularly in mining rare earth materials. I think this is going to become a political issue, but also an economic issue. And it's just another example. Everyone knows about NVIDIA. Everyone knows about Microsoft. Nothing against those great companies, but put REMX on your radar screen. I think this could be a big story, especially if we start to see perhaps Russia halt exports of certain metals, China halt exports. If Trump is playing tough when it comes to trade, we could start to see some other countries do that as well. So REMX, one I own. I think that one's going to benefit from that trend.
All right, you've probably been talking about Cracker Barrel in the last week or so. The corporate name of the company, by the way, is Cracker Barrel Old Country Store Incorporated. The stock traded as low as 33 and change and as high as just about 72 in the last 52 weeks. Right now, it's hovering at around $60 a share on this logo story that a lot of people have commented on, including President Trump. So what are your thoughts on that one?
Frank, my sense is unless you're a shareholder, just shut your mouth. Not to be so curt on your program, but whether or not to change the logo is an issue for the owners of the company, the board of directors, the managers of the company. It is not a national issue, in my opinion, on which any Joe Sixpack, let alone even the President of the United States, necessarily needs to weigh. Logos change all the time. Well, one of the issues with the old Cracker Barrel logo was that it's not scalable. It doesn't look great when you blow it up, for example. So there's a lot of actual legitimate reasons. And look, I understand people lament the passing of times gone by and changes, and everything seems to be changing. But unless you were a shareholder in Cracker Barrel, I think this is one that you probably might want to skip. And when it comes to outrage and being so aghast.
All right, you let them know. You tell them, shut that cake hole. I don't know if they even sell cake there, but that's another way to put it. Now, what about, let's see, what else have we not? What about energy? What about oil? Still hovering at around 64 and change here. What's your outlook for oil prices and for the oil stocks?
There's an ETF I like that's breaking out that owns a lot of these global energy stocks. And, Frank, they're not flashy. They don't generally, move 8, 10, 12% in one day. But I do think that the inflation story is not over. And FILL, FILL, is an ETF that holds a whole basket of these global energy producers. There's a dividend there, but the price action is strong as well. So, we've talked about AMLP in the past. I still like that in terms of a dividend play, but FILL, FILL, as a global energy play. I think inflation is not only going to surprise us, Frank, in terms of its stickiness, but I think that, again, I'm not a Cassandra, but I think we could be in a situation where we see rising inflation and a slowing economy. In the 70s, they called that stagflation. I don't know what they're going to call it this time around, but still FILL, one to put on your list.
All right, and a lot of talk lately about nuclear with a revival of nuclear energy here in the U.S. As well as in Europe. I see the headline, Poland to build Europe's first of its kind, a small-scale nuclear power plant. That's something that's making news today, and a lot of buzz here about re-energizing the nuclear industry here in the U.S. What about that?
Well, glad to hear it. I can't say that I have a lot of stock ideas, but, Frank, it's amazing. When freedom is permitted, prosperity always comes as a result. And, we see that time and time again. The most prosperous countries are the most free countries. There was a study out this week in the Financial Times that scared me quite a bit, and it kind of talked about the effect of populism. Basically, that after 15 years of a populist leadership, you've got the real per capita GDP of the average economy declining by about 10%. So populism has never been good for economies. It's always been freedom. And it's whenever you've seen, whether it's been, freedom in energy or freedom in technology and freedom in medicine, miracles result. So I'm happy to see that the Trump administration is following through on their promises to start to deregulate, whether it be small-scale nuclear or fossil fuels, bring the cost of energy down, and watch the production of everyday Americans continue to soar.
Very interesting. Even in Europe, which, of course, the Greens dominated a lot of the politics there for many, many years. Even in Sweden, I don't know if you saw the headline here, Sweden to scrap uranium mining ban with a nuclear build-out looming. Even in Sweden, they're looking to go nuclear.
Yeah, I mean, it's great, Frank, for every opposition of the fossil fuels. The nuclear they seem to also oppose, despite the fact that it doesn't produce those. So energy production is positive. Still, I think is the best way to play it. But I'll give you one more I like as well. It's actually BATT, B-A-T-T. This owns a basket of lithium and battery names. Not exactly, a nuclear play, but, as they say, a rising tide lifts all boats. So put BATT, B-A-T-T, on your list as well when it comes to energy.
All right, yeah, lithium powers a lot of things, including our phones and so forth, so that sounds good. Jonathan, wish we had more time. We'll have to stop there. Thank you very much for that thorough assessment here on this indeed record-shattering day on Wall Street with the Dow and the S&P 500 at all-time highs. It's always great to have you with us here. Jonathan HOENIG, Fox News, Fox Business contributor, portfolio manager at Capitalist Big Hedge Fund, and author of the great book, Price is Primary, How to Profit with Any Asset in Any Market at Any Time. Thank you very much for taking the call this afternoon.
Delighted. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you very much. And out to the freeways we go now, 790 KABC. Mottek On Money continues, 790 KABC. What's brewing on Wall Street? Well, a record-shattering day for both the Dow and the S&P 500. The Dow closing of 72 points at 45,637. The S&P 500 of 20 at 6502, blowing past 6,500 for the first time. And the NASDAQ of 115, 21,705, just below its all-time high, which was hit recently. Apple in the rally today up 207 to 232 and change. NVIDIA on its earnings news took that tumble initially, but trimmed losses to closing down $1.43 at 180.17. We see Intel of 8 cents today at 24.93. Cracker Barrel shares down 227 at 60.06. Tesla pulling back nearly $4 at 345 and change. Best Buy shares down nearly $3 on its earnings news, 72.66. Bitmine among the crypto equities out there. This is the one that has exposure to Ethereum, down 46 cents at 45.57. Strategy shares down 322 at 338.84. Bullish, well, only slightly living up to its name today at 45 cents at 64.43. And Circle Internet Group up about 350 at 130.94. Taking a look at the cryptos now, we see a Bitcoin at around 112,400, Ethereum at 4,510, and Doge at the moment at 22 cents, Solana at 215. And now the latest news on 790 KABC.
Welcome to NFL Flag.
Are you ready? Yeah! Are you ready? Yeah!
No matter who you are, lace up your cleats, smear on your eye black, step out on the field and chase something. Chase a goal.
Let's get it.
Chase the big time.
Get that, ladies.
Chase rings.
Let's go.
Chase gold medals. Chase all of it. It's all up for grabs now. NFL Flag. Chase something. Visit NFLflag.com to find a league and start the chase today.
Jim Rome takes on sports.
I'm here to give my State of the Union. What do I always say? While they may always be a disappointment, they're not always horrendous. And that's why this season feels different. They just suck.
He's the Spitfire of sports smack.
We've got lava being flung and slung in every single direction imaginable. It's hard to even know where to start with this tsunami of bullcrap.
The Jim Rome Show podcast.
How are they doing?
Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Mottek On Money continues, 790 KABC. Another marketing misfire getting worldwide attention, including on Wall Street. Looks like Cracker Barrel Old Country Store stock rebounded yesterday, then pulled back again today after the company announced it would discard its new logo. Amid public backlash, the switch occurred just hours after President Trump weighed in on the rebranding earlier this week. Let's bring in PR guru and author Michael Levine, based right here in Los Angeles. Michael, thank you very much for taking the call here. I've been dying to hear what you have to say about this Cracker Barrel drama.
Well, I think that this incident establishes that which I believe is fairly self-evident, which is that symbols are important things. Symbols who might not seem that important can be tremendously important in the perception and then the reality of a brand. So this incident, Cracker Barrel, is a symbol of, I believe, America being nauseatingly sick and tired of having woke logic shoved down their throats for the last half decade. What I'm hearing by experts, people I respect, is that Americans have just had about enough of it. They don't want to be lectured, and this woke approach to marketing is created quite a rebound. And Bud Light, of course, paid a price for that. And now our friends at Cracker Barrel learned, I think, a valuable lesson. They retreated rather quickly and changed recognized their mistake. But symbols are important things, and this adage, get woke, go broke, I think is proving very, very true in many incidents that we've seen over the last year or so.
On the Live with Michael Levine, an extraordinary PR guru and author here, veteran PR guy here in Los Angeles, has handled the biggest clients, by the way. And I love the discussion that's going on right now. Are the people at Cracker Barrel stupid or brilliant by doing this? Because we would never be talking about Cracker Barrel if all of this hadn't happened, what's been described as a marketing misfire. Maybe was somebody brilliant there to deliberately do this?
No, I think that when you ask, are they brilliant or stupid, I think they're a little of both. I think the initial decision was monumentally stupid, but they quickly corrected. I mean, no, they did encounter a great deal of pain on Wall Street from that initial bad decision. Changing the logo to the sterile idea that they initially came up with was monumentally idiotic. And, of course, the market responded and customers responded, and they learned a very painful but quick lesson. Don't do that. And they retreated quickly, and they're to be congratulated for admitting the horrible mistake they made.
And we've seen other examples like this. You cited some of them. Jaguar, too, right? Tried to go there, and
yeah,
that was embarrassing, right?
It really is, Frank. And look, I would tell all CEOs what I think is pretty self-evident. Get woke, go broke. It's 4 words, and I think it really establishes Americans are sick and tired of having this woke philosophy shoved down their throats. Now, particularly that's true in the middle part of the country, right? It's less true on the coasts of America, but even on the coast, I think people have had enough of it. They want to return to a sense of normal and not be lectured in their advertisements.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, of course, things have changed quite a bit. In the past, it would have taken a while for this thing to gel right now, but because of social media,
right.
The public instantaneously reacts to every little thing, including this. So things, mistakes are quickly reversed. What about the issue of nostalgia in all of this? Michael Levine and companies wrestling with, or maybe thinking about doing something similar.
Well, I would encourage anyone who's thinking of making a brand change to tread cautiously. And if someone in their marketing department has some dopey, woke idea for how they can turn their company brand to a more woke experiment, I would proceed with a lot of caution, because unless you want to end up like Bud Light or even Cracker Barrel for a week or so, I would proceed with caution.
Anything else you'd like to mention about this? Anything else that's any other hits and misses that have been getting your attention? There seems to be a lot this year.
Well, Frank, these marketing departments, I know many of these people in marketing departments in big corporations. And, they're not, it's not that they're all the same, but many of them think the same. These are not people who go to Cracker Barrel. They're people who think they know best for Cracker Barrel, but they don't go to Cracker Barrel. They don't drink Bud Light, though they think they know how to lecture customers who do. And I think that corporations got to rethink the hiring of these kind of whole same thinking, elite, college-educated, pronoun-carrying team members who all think one way and seem to be separated from the way the real world works. So that's a thought worth considering to our corporate friends.
Yeah. So is Madison Avenue still driving all of this? Who's driving a lot of these ideas nowadays?
Well, I think Madison Avenue is and was, but I think that over the last year, a couple of these corporations have been spanked pretty hard, and I think they're humbled. And again, if I were running a Fortune 500 company right now, I'd march my marketing department in to see me, and I'd say, now look, you may enjoy all this fun, youthful approach to life, but before we start making any massive changes around here, I want to better understand what customers are thinking, not what you're thinking and you and your crew of comrades. So that would be my thinking. I think proceed with caution.
All right, and on a lighter note, and probably a bigger success story these days, we have to mention Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce's engagement. So look what she's done, becoming a billionaire in the last. Yeah, the new royal wedding, I would appear. Yeah, and it's remarkable. Think of this: Taylor Swift is a billionaire. That's like what? That's incredible. And yet it's true. So it's a rather remarkable thing, and this will probably be quite a spectacle, I would think. Right, and she also helped revitalize the NFL, and Travis Kelce certainly has become a big star, now engaged to billionaire Taylor Swift, who also happens to be a Beverly Hills resident, by the way. So we say hello to Taylor if she's listening here this evening.
Well, since she's a billionaire, she should be listening to Mottek on Money, because that's what all the smart people who have a lot of money do.
Absolutely. Well, I appreciate that, Michael, and thank you very much for being a great contributor to this program for many, many years, and up there with the biggest names in Hollywood and throughout, so many wonderful events with you, Michael. Thank you very, very much for joining us live here. That is Michael Levine, PR guru extraordinaire, also author of numerous books. Michael Levine, thanks for joining us here on 790 KABC.
I am Michael Rosenbaum.
I am Tom Welling.
Welcome to Talkville,
where it's fun to talk about Smallville.
We're going to be talking to sometimes guest stars. Are you liking the direction Lois is going in?
Yeah, because I'm getting more screen time.
It's good. But mostly it's just me and Tom remembering.
I think we all feel like there was a scene missing here.
You got me, Tom.
Let's revisit it. Let's look at it. See what we remember.
See what we remember.
I had never been around anything like that before. I mean, it was so fun.
Talkville. Talkville.
I just had a flashback.
Follow and listen on your favorite platform.
Let's get into it.
Mottek On Money continues here, 790 KABC. More tariff drama involving India and Europe today. China still uncertain as well. Uncertainty over the impact of tariffs continues to hang over businesses, especially retailers, heading into the holiday season. It was just 24 hours ago, by the way, that we heard from the director of the Port of Los Angeles, Gene Soroka, who told us the Port of L.A. broke a century-old record as the tariff threats triggered an import surge into the port. A lot of interesting things happening. Let's get a ground-level update now on what's really happening out there. And joining us now is Tara RICEBERG, the owner of the Tesoro Gift Shop in Beverly Hills. Tara, thank you very much for taking the call here this afternoon.
Thanks, Frank. Appreciate this conversation.
Wonderful. Well, we loved our last conversation here when you gave us an update on what was happening at that time and concerns about higher prices and availability of goods, especially heading into the holiday season. Give us an update on how things are looking now.
Unfortunately, what we talked about in April was, made in America and how great that concept is, up until the point where artists cannot get their raw materials. And it has now hit home. Their stock levels are low. They're trying to get new materials, and everything is rising in price. One of my ceramicists does a gold leaf edging. The bottles of gold went from $1,000 to $1,500. I have a vendor who has an allergy to concrete, so she has to source a material from the UK. A bag of it is normally $216. The additional tariff is $337. So she can no longer manufacture her product. And on her Instagram, she wrote, "I am tired. The end is near." And I think she really hit home for a lot of us. We've been pivoting since COVID to the point where we're now spinning trying to save our businesses. And it's obvious we love to talk about the money and the financial impact of tariffs. But what we never talk about is how this stifles creativity. There are fewer new designs and products emerging on the market. So a lot of my vendors are just stocking their best sellers or maybe tweaking a design that's been popular, that's known and true for them. But you're really not seeing innovation, and you're really not seeing new products coming to market now.
Yeah, it seems to be changing almost on an hour-by-hour basis. Is there optimism that the dust will settle in all this? Already we're seeing a lot of back and forth in this process, which is still relatively new, really. Is there optimism that that some of these eye-popping tariffs impacting the products that you just described will ultimately be reduced or go away?
What I think everybody's holding on to is a rollback on tariffs, or maybe just de minimis. That is a game changer as a small business. If I could bring in product from Europe under the $800 rule that we used to have, I wouldn't be impacted by the tariffs. When you wake up with an announcement from DHL saying Germany is no longer going to ship to the United States, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, I have a reorder that I have to do, and now I'm not going to be able to get my product in, everything feels reactive. Everything feels like you're scrambling to try to find a new path, a new way to source things. I love having handmade product in my store, but the lead time for manufacturing is 4 to 6 weeks. So if I suddenly sell out of a best-selling mug, I can't restock it. And so my biggest fear going into the holiday season is, will I be able to have enough product to make my season happen this year?
All right, we did see an uptick in inflation at the wholesale level in the last reading, and I guess we're getting another reading tomorrow morning, the one that the Fed favors, we're told. What about the inflation aspect of this? And at the wholesale level, we're seeing that tick higher. What about at the consumer level? Have you raised your prices, for example?
It depends on the product. So I am trying my best to hold or maybe absorb 10 to 20% of the tariff. But I just got hit the other day with a $400 bill from FedEx for tariffs on product that I already put on my shelves. There's no way I can sell the product at the price marked and pay for that tariff bill. So it is forcing me to raise my product. So I have to go from $95 to $130 to cover the cost of the FedEx bill.
Wow.
And that's nuts. The last time that happened to me, $840 worth of merchandise had a tariff of $1,400. So I can't even sell the product and actually pay for the tariff. I feel with my friends and my network of vendors and suppliers, none of us are raising prices across the board and taking advantage of the tariff. None of us want to raise prices. None of us want to take advantage of our customers. And what people fail to understand is that there is a perceived value for merchandise. For example, if you think a mug should be $25, you're not going to pay $40 for it. So it doesn't matter what I set the price, you have a comfort level of what you're going to spend. And I don't have a lot of leeway on my pricing. I'm trying to find products that have the least amount of impact on the tariff impact as possible. But the other thing that also snowballs is the cost of shipping, packaging, the boxes, the tape, all those materials have increased. So there's really no way to skirt these increases. The ripple effect is tremendous.
Well, that's something you noticed already earlier this year, the cost of shipping materials. Can you give us some more examples about this, which is going to be impacting all businesses out there?
Well, it's not just the shipping materials. It's even the restaurants, the takeaway containers. All of those packages, all those materials come from Asia. So we are all going to feel a price increase. And one of the things that I realized, I went to trade shows this summer and attendance was down. And again, the ripple effect of retail. So if fewer buyers are traveling, that means the cities are not getting their occupancy tax. You know, Beverly Hills, for example, operates on our tourism. And if tourism is down, then the city doesn't have the funds to operate. So the baseline of retail, of travel, impacts all of us. And it's not just what an individual is paying at the supermarket. It is across the board. Our cities aren't going to have the revenue to operate the services that we're accustomed to. So it's scary times.
Wow, Tara. Well, thank you very much for joining us and doing such a great job explaining really the real-life issues business people are facing, small businesses especially, and we stand tall for small here. And I know this is a big issue, certainly among all members of the Beverly Hills Chamber of Commerce. I know you're very active there and the owner of a very prestigious gift shop in Beverly Hills, Tesoro Gift Shop. Thank you very much, Tara RICEBERG, for joining us live here this afternoon.
Thank you, Frank. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very, very much. Record-shattering day on Wall Street with the Dow up 72 points, good enough for a record-high close, 45,637. The S&P 500 up 20 at 6,502, also a record high. NASDAQ up 115, just below its record high. Stay tuned now for the 790 KBC News Blitz on 790 KBC.
YouTube personality Benny Johnson has cracked the code on a new era of newsmaking.
And, you know, we have some major members of the White House team that will be joining the program. I know it makes you uncomfortable. It makes me uncomfortable. But, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes you just got to dive right in and say, well.
It's a new cultural landscape.
This is the proper messaging. Thank you. Let's rock and roll.
The Benny Show. Follow and listen on your favorite platform.